Welcome to Cork Cyber Rewired Session 4. It's the grand finale, so like any good series, we have saved the episode about money for last. I'm Dane Candee, the CEO of Cork Cyber. If you've been with us for all four, thank you. You get no prize, but you do get to feel smug and smart. So if this is your first one, welcome. You skipped straight to the good part. Today's topic is insurance revenue payouts. We love here at Cork to talk about how we tie the data to the dollar. And most importantly, we've brought along some of our favorite partners to share some of their stories as well. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to do a quick intro of our speakers, and then we'll jump right in. So, of course, we've got Mr. Mora, Head of Sales and Strategic Growth. Andrew's going to show you how the financial protection stops being a checkbox add-on, starts being a revenue line. He's also going to walk the cyber insurance analyzer, which is the tool that makes you look very smart in front of the client. Try not to enjoy it too much, Andrew. And then, of course, we've got Mr. Sean Overton. Sean, the IT service manager at Bizco Technologies. Bizco has been making IT simple for 25 plus years. Sean is one of my all-time favorite people and an extraordinarily straight shooter. So, Sean, really honored to have you today. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then we got Mr. Sonny. Sonny and I have worked together on a variety of cases. Been a busy year for Sonny and the firm at allCare IT. So, Sonny, we love you and the team, and really grateful that you have joined us. Sonny lives where security meets the paperwork, and nobody loves, but everybody needs it. So, he's going to give us that compliance side view of why this is such a differentiator and not just a nice to have. We were talking about this right before the camera started rolling too. So, too many big money stories out there, and the volume is increasing. So, Sonny, welcome, my friend.
It's a pleasure. We love you guys too.
Right on. Enough from me. Mr. Mora, show them the part where protecting a client and growing revenue turn out to be the same sentence. Let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, so I usually like to talk to partners and educate them on like the history of Cork, right? And we were really born as a warranty company, and we really over the last year have shifted the actual naming convention of warranty to financial protection, and that has gone a long way, right? Like it's just instead of someone just politely saying no thank you to a warranty for coverage, they have no idea what it actually does. With financial protection, it starts to bring up their questions, right? What does that actually mean? And so we have some ways that you as an MSP can start to use and leverage Cork as another revenue stream. And so I think of it a couple different ways. Yes, you can add it on as an add-on to your customers as that added revenue stream, or if you're doing a lot of quote unquote free services or eating the cost, you can start banging against that P&L and charging those things against Cork as well. And so that's why we brought some of these partners on. They'll be able to talk you through some of these cases because it makes a lot of sense. And again, why we changed the name to financial coverage, because it not only covers your customer, your end user, but it also covers you as the MSP as well. And so like we'll have some stories behind that. We also, as Dan alluded to, I'll be able to show you the cyber insurance analyzer. What's really cool about this is you're able to really leverage this tool when customers are coming to you during renewal time. Hey, can you help me out with my cyber questionnaire? Yes, I absolutely can, but you should ask them for their policy. And I'll show you some reasons why and how you can leverage our financial coverage to help them with when and if they do have cyber insurance. And obviously, like I think you'll hear some of and this isn't going to be coming from me, this will be coming from Sunny and Sean, where the impact of having this coverage was what it does for you, not only from a brand perspective, but from a relationship perspective to the end user and you as a partner. You'll have a customer for life and you'll hear some stories of why that is. And essentially, like why, what, and what we're doing is we've actually just passed the 6 million marker of compliance events through Cork, and we've only had sub 40 payouts, right? And we've denied zero claims. And so that's something that we stand on very proudly. And we want to be able to protect what we're doing and what you're offering. And so what I ask a lot of partners and over the last couple of months, what I've been asking them is, hey, if I'm a net new customer or I'm a new customer and you're running me through my QBR and I ask a question of, I have 10 employees, I buy 10, 15, 20 products from you or a service from you. How do you know that those services are on for all 10 of my employees 3, 6, 9 months down the road? And essentially, that's what Cork's helping protect that piece, not only from an operational standpoint, but then once you have minimal things in place from a stack perspective, we'll also protect you financially. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Please, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We're obviously proactively watching that. Not only everybody on here, but we do have some people from Cork also watching it in the background. So any questions you have, we want to keep this interactive and address anything that you want to see. So I know I
What
was going
and
to show you.
one
Yeah.
little update there. Um, I think it's 61 claims
Oh, okay.
against the 6 million. We went through and did kind of a review, and that includes all of the little incident response tickets that have been submitted. So $200 here, $600 there. And you look at the volume that has really increased just over the last 60 days. It's impressive. And part of that's because we're covering $25,000 and $50,000, not just the $500,000 or 100K. And so we've been able to really help. And anyways, I just wanted to make sure that we're highlighting the true number there.
Yeah, and I'll actually talk about some of that. So I didn't know the true up happened, so thank you for the correction. So 61 now claims with zero denied. That number still hasn't changed from that perspective. So and obviously with adding more endpoints, things like that, it's if you think of it from a car and driving perspective, we're just adding more and more cars on the road with the endpoints that we add from a partner side of things. What I did was, I know we were going to cover the cyber insurance analyzer, but I wanted to show you all this. And Dan was already starting to talk about it. We have four different coverages. They range from 25,000 up to $500,000, right? And essentially, it just depends on what the customer needs are. What do they have from a coverage perspective? What I would say for most people who have cyber insurance or MSPs who want to cover themselves from an incident response perspective, these two are the most popular. It just makes the most sense financially. If anybody doesn't have cyber insurance, these ones make a little bit more sense. The reason I explain it from that perspective is think of an event, think of how many employees they have, how much payroll they have, if they have a brick and mortar, all those types of things, how much actual liquid cash do they have? Is 50K, is 25K enough from a coverage perspective financially? Because typically people just run out of cash and that's why they close their doors. And so again, this is where it's not a one size fits all for your customers because there are some opportunities where higher coverages may make more sense. What I did want to highlight though is these are what is paid out to the MSP 99% of the time because you're already that pre-approved incident response vendor with purchasing the financial protection through Cork. And so when Dan was talking about the uptick of the light IR, if you will, rolling back passwords, someone clicked on a link they shouldn't have, we're doing 30 hours or 30 minutes to 4 hours worth of work instead of going back and having that awkward conversation. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you're the idiot that actually clicked on this. You shouldn't have. This was not part of your MSA. I have to bill you, right? And they're like, oh, well, I thought this was actually part of my agreement. I thought it was all included. Uh, a lot of our partners have run through that. They have that awkward conversation. Or the other thing that we hear a lot of is the customer's been there for 10 years and I just didn't want to bill them, so I ate the cost. And so essentially you're just doing work for free, right? And so we want to avoid those pieces, especially if you have the things that we would like in place from a financial protection standpoint. And what I'm going to show you and why I wanted to highlight this is you'll see from a cyber insurance perspective, we start out at $10,000 on a deductible coverage perspective, and we go up from there, right? So our baseline coverage starts out at 10K, and you'll see why that's important in just a second. But you'll be able to educate your customers on how to leverage some of these things to help them and change their out-of-pocket expense. And then we cover the ACH wire transfer loss. Why this is important is if you think about this, this is the front-end coverage. If your customers do have cyber insurance, let's just say they have a $5,000 deductible. Are they comfortable with losing $4,900 or less? Because it doesn't make sense to trigger cyber in that instance. So they would still be coming out of pocket where Cork would actually pay for that scenario. So there's a couple of things, and then this one's typically paid to the MSP, and then they determine how this would actually be portioned out or actually spent. And so this could be an arrangement of things, right? Like it could be uh, software refresh, hardware refresh. It could be, we've seen a couple instances where partners have had their people working on the weekends and then we paid for their dinners. There's been two scenarios where partners have used it as like a sorry gift for the end user. So there's a bunch of different things. The only one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but the only one that we've actually denied from the instant credit card payment perspective was a Terminex charge, and the actual partner accidentally used the wrong credit card that was on the computer on file, and so it was a mistake when we called them and said, "Hey, we're gonna deny this. This is like your bugs are getting cleaned up by us.
I mean,
Is that okay?" Right? So Dan, go
yeah,
ahead.
there's some basics. We tend not to pay for people's you know, bug killing services. Um, it's the wrong type of bugs. And if you keep your backup in the same place as your primaries, that's not necessarily the best practice on how to run your technology shop either. So, a couple fundamentals there that I think most people are pretty aware of.
Cool. So I'm gonna stop this and then show you really quickly here how to leverage the actual cyber insurance analyzer to talk and educate your clients when they come to you during the
And while
time when a customer says like, "Hey,
while he's doing that, uh, Sean, can you think of a time when you've got clients who aren't asking about help with cyber insurance policies or filling out questionnaires? I mean, that's a fairly regular piece of what y'all are doing, right?
Yeah, myself as a service manager, the other service manager in our company in Nebraska, as well as our IT director, a lot of that falls on us. And as many of you know, that those things take a lot of time. There's a lot of just dead time being spent filling those out. So we're, leveraging this platform to analyze our policies, come up with the best policy for the client moving forward, as well as getting them actual real live quotes in the marketplace for insurance. And having this, you know having Cork on our agreements now, it's bringing the question up of, do I need cyber insurance? So it's actually giving us some like proactive conversation with our clients, which just wasn't there before.
Thanks. I haven't asked you this question in at least a year. What percentage of your clients have cyber insurance, if you had to guess?
I would say probably 30%.
Okay.
Those more mature organizations generally have it. If you ask the client if they think they have cyber insurance, it might be in the 60 to 70% range because they have a rider on their business insurance that's really not cyber insurance. But true cyber insurance, I'd say 20 to 30%.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hmm. Yeah.
before I show this, Sonny, for you, like, do you see any differences in what, because obviously Sean's in, Nebraska, like for you, do you see any differences for your customers? And or are there specific industries that you see are more prevalent from a cyber insurance side of things?
Yeah, no, I think actually when Sean was saying things of like literally even stats, I can totally relate, even though it's different country and maybe even like different sectors, but it's pretty much the same. The only other thing I would like to add is what else we have seen is the premiums going down for the clients, which was again a huge improvement because we have the visibility, we have controls in place, and when clients come to us and be like, okay, this is our premium, this is our policy, and then we analyze it through Cork and talk to, even in certain cases, to the insurance companies directly or their brokers and be like, okay, that's the things that we have in place and this is the reason, and all of a sudden their premium goes down. But other than that, we can totally relate to Sean's experience, and it's pretty much similar on our end as well.
Well, y'all are setting me up with some beach balls to make this pretty easy from a full circle perspective, so I appreciate it. This hasn't been pre-scripted, so this is a very free-flowing thing. So you all should see my screen and should see the cyber insurance analyzer. And so what we recommend for our partners to do is when you get hit up to say, hey, or your customers come to you all and say, hey, can you help me with my cyber questionnaire? Obviously, the answer is still yes, but then I would say, can you also send me your policy so I can run it through our analyzer? Then what you're going to get is a uniform 3-page analyzation of that policy. And this could be a 20-page policy, it could be a 50-page policy, it could be a 200-page policy with E&O, business, home and auto, even the rider, and it will still pull out anything that's only prudent to cyber, right? So, and it'll always look uniform to this, where it'll give you the insurer, what their premium is, what their deductible is, executive summary, coverage summary. And I don't want anybody on this call to become a cyber broker unless that's like a goal of yours, but most people I talk to, that's not a thing. And so I don't want you to make recommendations, right? What I just say is have your customers look at this, and if there's any glaring red flags in the risk factors that they can't deal with as a business, that's where I would just say, hey, go back to your broker and address this and get it fixed, right? And then I would also highlight the policy sublimits, because obviously, like, a big misconception for a lot of end users is my $2 million policy is a $2 million payout in every event. And that is not the case. Even here, right, you start to see like computer fraud, social engineering, shocker, the stuff that people get hit for all the time doesn't have that $2 million coverage. And so just so that they understand that expectation of what that payout would be, right? And then we're going to highlight if Cork can cover anything from that perspective. Now, here's where it gets a little weird is if you just look at this and just say like, hey, what does their policy really cover? All the green check boxes are there. So does Cork really help? And that's why I wanted to show you what those coverages did in the beginning from a monetary perspective. Because if you look at this client, they just renewed their policy, but their deductible is 10K. And so if you as an MSP just internalize what is your average client today, like what's your sweet spot? I know you'll have some small ones, some big ones, but what's your average customer? If you do a markup of call it $3, $5 or whatever per that client, is that savings to what you would actually save them from a deductible perspective outweigh what they would pay for 12 months with Cork, right? Because essentially we have monthly coverage or monthly payments for yearly coverage. And so in worst case scenario, if they executed some type of claim through Cork on month 12, does that outweigh or is that less than what their deductible would be? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes, right? And so that's scenario one. Scenario two is here. Let me show you a more common policy. Let's see what this one looks like. This one doesn't have a deductible, so let me see this one. So like this one's a little bit less, right? So theoretically, what you could do for this customer, because their premium out of pocket is going to be $2,200. Okay. And so if we raise this to $10,000, because again, Cork would essentially pay that, does it save them on their out-of-pocket expense from their premium? Typically, we save them about 30% by raising their deductible. The last one I just did, we were able to save the end user 47% on their premium. And I'll show you how, what Sunny and Sean are talking about, how they were able to trigger that through Cork. But this is where what I usually try to tell partners and have them really think about this is when clients are coming to you for renewal of cyber insurance, they have every intention to pay for cyber, right? They're going to pay for it. And so if collectively this business is going to spend $15,000 with you all, and let's just say that this premium was five, right? So $20,000 for the year for cyber insurance and managed services. What if in a world you gave them more coverage, more protection, but that cost was $18,000, $15,000, right? And so that's where again it's a really easy business play. And I'm not saying that every end user is going to say yes to this, right? Like it's not a thing. You are going to have those people who are like, no, even if you save them money, they're going to say no for some odd reason, just part of their nature, right? But there are going to be those people who do want to save a couple $100, a couple $1,000, and it's really tangible to show them that. Um, so I'm going to stop there. So, Sean, Sonny, anything that you all want to add from the cyber insurance analyzer and your experiences before I show everybody how to trigger insurance through here?
I mean, one thing I could say is it just made it easier to read it. You got to think, you said 5, 10, 20 pages, digging through the fine print, just being able to give them that executive level summary of what they have and their coverages is just a game changer. We all know how difficult insurance is to navigate. So it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah, this one right here, this Metro commercial was 72 pages, right? And so like I think of myself as a general consumer, I'm not reading the whole thing,
No,
right? Like I'm not. And so yeah, I sign off on it. I'm like, cool. But like this 3-pager, it makes it pretty palatable for the end user, right? So what about you, Sonny?
Yeah, no, same thing is, and not only the length of the document, it's the language of the document. And it's so easy to misunderstand or to not understand at all. And, like it happens with like literally, I guess, any legalese document. Sometimes we think we are covered for something, and then you're like, okay, here you go. Nope, you're not covered. Thank you. So to be able to simplify that, so it saves time, it adds clarification. You exactly know what's covered, what's not covered, and on top of that, it saves you money with the premium, uh, is I think a huge bonus.
Yeah. And so I'll show you all. So like let's just say you run a customer's policy through here and there's red flags everywhere. It's just screaming red flags. And they come back to you all and they say, "Hey, do you have a way that I can get insurance? Because I actually bought this from my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, who I play softball with on Friday nights, and they do my home and auto, and just threw something on here and it looks like a rider. I don't have another way to get insurance. I don't know where else to go. Can you help me with that?" Or we have partners that are proactively saying, "Hey, if I shop out your cyber insurance to get you better and cheaper coverage, does that make sense for you as a business?" Again, some people are going to say no, some people are going to say yes. In either scenario, what you're able to do through Cork is any one of your customers, we have the telemetry to share out to a cyber broker. So we use DataStream and Yukon. And what you're able to do is hit those 3 buttons, and what it said was get instant insurance quote. What you're doing is authorizing Cork to share the telemetry of said customer with that broker. When you hit continue, what you need to know as an MSP is who at that end user they want the quote to go to, what industry they're in, and then how they're owned, and then you'll be able to get a quote. Even if you like, let's just say that you wanted to run this before you talk to the customer to see like, hey, what generally would it be? There is no harm, no foul, because you would actually have to click this next step to trigger the broker. So you can kind of preview this if you wanted to, but you'll see that there's actually a range here. The reason why is because both of our brokers use 40 different carriers. So if your customers are used to the normal travelers, the Tokyo Marines, the coalitions, the normal names that you typically see, they can keep those, right? And so there is no, you won't hear any like one-off weird names that you're not typically used to. And so, but that's why there's a range. And then here's where that 30% savings is when you jack up that deductible on the high end. Because again, typically SMBs really like to keep it even keel and they'll have them around the same range, right? And we want that pendulum to swing more on the deductible side so we can lower their out-of-pocket expense. But if the customer's like, yeah, this is great, right? That's where you would click this and it would remove you as the MSP, insert our broker, and insert end user. So that's where we take the liability off you all, right? And then what's cool is they're typically we're going to get them better coverage at a cheaper rate. But then if there's any room for improvement, they're also going to give recommendations back to actually buy more managed services to lower the premium as well. So they're just trying to make them less risky as a customer, right? And so even if you do have a broker, what I usually say is that's great, right? Like I'm glad that you have some way for your customers to get coverage. Do you as an MSP get recommendations back as part of your, like your payment back to giving them those customers from an insurance perspective? 9 times out of 10 on that side, the answer is no. Because most insurance brokers are not cyber insurance brokers. And so that's where it's a little bit different. So just to give you all a stat that's from Jay McBain right now, there's a million licensed insurance brokers. So that's North America, US and Canada. Of those million brokers, only 10,000 of them are cyber insurance brokers. So the likelihood of your clients actually having proper cyber insurance coverage is very slim. And so that's a couple of different ways that our partners, as these two gentlemen on here are leveraging our financial protection, but tying it all in with a bigger story instead of just saying like, hey, do you want this extra SKU that's going to cost you X amount of dollars? They're adding in this whole piece where it outweighs the cost of whatever they're delivering it at. Um, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Bill, if you want to pull back up the slides, but I'm gonna pause there for now from the demo perspective. Yeah, and then if you want to go to the next one, I mean, I cover these parts. And so Sean, I'm gonna kick it over to you first. Honestly, we talked about this a long time ago. So you're one of our first adopters from a blanket coverage perspective, and I think once you saw the incident response side of things is where the light bulb really went off for Bizco and you.
Mhm.
And this was at Flow 2 years ago,
Yep.
uh, when we were talking about this piece of it. And so I want to throw it over to you first and have you talk about your experience, how you're leveraging it, how Bizco's really, because honestly, I think you all are doing it right. But how you are leveraging the financial protection piece from your side.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to start off, thank you. Appreciate being here. Um, I believe Dan mentioned at the beginning the incident response, those ticky-tack 200, 600, $1,000 events. Um, we're a family-owned company. Sometimes we're a little too nice with our clients. So we kind of let a lot of things slide, especially if they're like a long-term, a strategic partner, a referral source. We just kind of let those things slide. And ever since we've given this blanket coverage to all of our clients, it's just included in their base agreement with us. We've begun to, take back some of that lost revenue. Just in 2026, just some quick numbers, we've probably brought back in about $10,000 in incident response revenue that we have just been giving away because we were too nice. And now the client, is still not they're not on the hook for that, but we're also recouping that time spent of those, simple business email compromises. I mean, that's probably the number one thing that we've submitted these on is business email compromises, cleaning up the accounts, cleaning up Microsoft tenants, resetting passwords, engaging with the end user, reformatting their endpoint. Those are just things that, can take 3-4 hours, and we really don't track them and bill them efficiently. And now with this, we've, recouped some of that lost revenue. So that's been great for us. And then, from an administration side, the Cork portals really helped us keep an eye on where things are at. We recently went through a large RMM migration, and it allowed us to see where RMM agents were missing, between the old RMM and the new RMM. So it gave us a little bit of eyes into things that we might not necessarily see, or just get lost in the shuffle. So that's been a great help. But yeah, the incident response thing has been huge. It's also given an extra layer of trust with our clients, especially when we're selling our services to new clients. It triggers the conversation when they see it on our agreements that we're including this. We're so confident in what we do. We're giving you this coverage because we're that confident in what we do as a security provider to your business. And then we also include the, step ups to the, larger plans, and it just creates that conversation around security. And, it's helped push the envelope on security awareness training, which, as everyone knows, is one of those check boxes on your cyber insurance. Do they do it? Are they performing it? Now we can actually have actionable tracking and see, and push that responsibility to the client to ensure their employees are doing that training and that they're not clicking on phishing emails. So it's been super helpful, in many different angles.
Yeah, I
Sean,
appreciate it. Go ahead, Dan.
can I, yeah, I distinctly remember a few conversations with you, and there's been times when we've dropped mutual curse words together because we wanted to have bigger, better impact on both sides of the fence with our businesses and what we're trying to do with the customers. And sometimes it's because the darn clients just aren't paying enough attention to the stuff that we're trying to tell them to pay attention to, right?
Yep.
And there was a point where you looked at me and you were like, all right, I'm going to do this because we are so damn good at what we do at Bizco, and we stand behind our work, and we're going to put all this freaking money behind it. And Dan, I need you and the team to show up with me. And I'm summarizing maybe 18 months worth of effort here.
Yeah.
But damn it, I'm really proud of how you and your team have showed up for your clients and that we've been able to participate. Okay. So hence the emphasis. Um, Part of that is because selling confidence or selling futures, communicating the future is so difficult to do. And I and
hmm
and I don't have your job, which is harder than my job. And so I'm really curious, what the last 6, 12 months has been like as you've been in these client-facing conversations when you're trying to get the leader of a business or a leadership team to take their damn security awareness
Yeah.
training 2% more
Yep.
seriously,
Yeah.
not just so their cyber insurance policy pays out, but so that they actually don't lose the money in their bank account. What's
Mhm.
it been like to try to teach your clients to do just a little better?
I can tell you that since we've started including this, our QBRs, or however you want to, those check-in calls with your clients, this has been a large push, and the completion percentage has skyrocketed just because now we're putting a financial onus on the client to ensure their employees are doing the training that they're supposed to be doing. Once you put a financial aspect behind something, like, hey, we're going to cover you up to 25,000, but here's the deal. You have to make sure your employees are completing this. This is an HR,
Mm.
conversation. So it's really gotten that. I mean, clients are really getting in, they're looking at the reporting, they're seeing who's not doing it, they're making sure it's getting completed so they don't fall out of that compliance within the Cork in the Cork portal. So that has just greatly improved that conversation because now there's a dollar sign behind it, which at the end of the day, these small, medium businesses, most of the people that we're dealing with as the MSP is the CFO or the person dealing with sending money out. So once you make it, there's a little skin in the game for them, it makes that so much easier. And that's what's helped us with this is just getting across that line and making sure they're doing the simple stuff.
Money matters. That's
It's
great.
the biggest thing.
That's great to hear. Well, we celebrate you within the walls of Cork because you're using us in a client-facing capacity to get shit done.
hmm
And you're also using us internally. I like how you talk about you guys being too nice, right? Family owned, and like, we'll just eat the cost. And so when I see a Bizco bill come in, it's like, yes, let's pay that sucker because they're doing something, for their clients that's meaningful. So it means that you're taking care of the IR on one side, and then you're also driving increased security posture on the other side.
Yeah.
Because the more you do on increasing that, making the world a slightly better place, slightly safer place, locking those doors and windows and getting your clients to do it, it also means the less checks that Cork has to write. So
Yep.
in a way, it's a self-healing system when we work together this way, don't you think?
Oh, 100% agree. And like I said, it's really driven a lot of just natural conversations with our clients as well around it. They see this cork on the agreement and they're like, should we get cyber insurance? And then it kind of drives that conversation and it begins, okay, you want cyber insurance? Let's get your environment in a better space where it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg for cyber insurance, which brings us revenue dollars on the project labor, the recurring revenue on the tools that we sell them. It builds that, just constantly growing their security footprint. And it just starts from a simple conversation around insurance and having cork on their agreements.
So 5 years ago, what was the thought process for you, or even if you could speak more generally about MSPs when it came to cyber insurance? Really seemed like one of those things that you didn't want to touch if you didn't have to. And now
Yeah.
you're leveraging it differently. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're leveraging it as a discussion jump off to get people into a certain level of security within their environment. We've seen a lot more clients going to Azure, Entra, cloud centric management where they don't have on-premise servers, and it opens up those discussions on the new server is Entra, and locking down the policies within there to make sure that their endpoints are trusted, because it's not an on-prem server anymore. The data can be accessed from anywhere. They don't have to be inside your firewall. They just need to get the user to put in their password. So it's driven the security conversation heavily, and it's increased our project closures just because now they're thinking about it from a dollars and cents perspective.
Yeah. I appreciate those insights. Sonny, what are your thoughts on all of this? You guys have been busy and popping lots of claims, working with a lot of different customers, and you got that north of the border perspective as well. What resonates from what you're hearing from Sean?
I don't know if it's crazy or not crazy, but everything, Sean, that you have said, I can 100% relate to it. Like, not even, I would say 90%, 100%. From missing revenue, from doing the incidents and double thinking or checking, be like, okay, should we have that hard conversation with the client? Maybe not. They are long-term clients. How about we just cover it? Because IR takes time. Incident response takes a lot of time, especially some incidents. So much log analysis, so much even training, so much advancing the experience and all of those things. But at the same time, if you are not making any money from it, you still want to help the clients, because as Sean said, we are the same way. We are like too nice. You guys know Andy. He's amazing. So we really try our best to make sure we are doing everything we can to protect our clients, and not necessarily in terms of like how we can make the most money out of it. That was never the focus. But with Cork, what's a good thing is finding the balance between, sure, we are helping the clients, we are educating them, we are doing a decent or good job with incident response, but at the same time, we are not losing money. And on top of that, one more thing I would like to add is how amazing you guys have been, at Cork. Anytime I have filed a claim, first of all, it's super easy to do it. But I have received call sometimes, which is crazy. It's like within 5 minutes. And I'm like, are you guys just waiting for the claims to happen? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to pick up my phone. And everybody that I've talked to has been super awesome, super helpful. There has been never a question of like, okay, what about this? They're always looking to help. So between, I guess, an insurance revenue impact that we had internally, educating our clients, and just not being hesitant to take a little bit extra time. What we have started doing for every incident, we were doing before as well, but now we have a formal process of having a post-incident meeting and taking that opportunity to make sure for every incident, we analyze it, we review it with the client, and then we help them like, okay, how can you avoid this? What caused this? before we were hesitant to spend so much time because it takes time to analyze, to create reports, to go through the whole security stack and figure out the missing pieces. But with Cork, that has been a game changer. And clients are taking it seriously because when an incident happened, they are stressed, they are worried, and we are stressed. We are like, okay, let's just make sure they're good. Once they're good, then they listen us, be like, okay, how can we make sure that this won't happen again? So they take things like security awareness training, cyber insurance, even Cork be like, okay, do you need to upgrade? Anything, they are like taking it with salt and grain and be like, okay, let's just make sure things are as tight as possible because all of us, can relate. Things have changed so much, especially in the last, I would say, 6 months, with AI and automation, and we are seeing a huge spike, and we don't see that number going down anytime soon. I think it's just going to keep going up and up. So it's good that we are, staying on top of it and helping our clients as best as we can.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. But this is a master class, not a master clap. So let's go back to the teaching here. Spike over the last 6 months. Walk us through two, maybe three examples. What's the biggest incident that you've been witnessing that you've had to deal with for clients, and one of the smallest in ways that you've been using financial protection support for your clients?
Sure. So for the smallest ones, we are seeing, as Sean mentioned and Dan, you mentioned, is business email compromise. So those ones are like, okay, you get an email from somebody, you clicked on it, we help you revoke the credentials and make sure like you're protected, your PC is safe, your account is safe. Still takes 2, 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, depending on the impact. But then the big ones that we are seeing, one of the biggest one that we have seen so far is one of the clients basically thinking that they are wiring the money to one of their vendors, which got compromised, but they ended up, it was close to like 600,000, way over $500,000. And that was the biggest one that we have seen so far. And that's why when I had a conversation with the client and be like, okay, we have Cork, the last thing they want us to at that time is to talk about how you're going to pay for the investigation or about the incident response. That's not the thing that they want to hear right now. They want to hear how we can help. And that was our focus. And when the conversation boiled down, and after a few days, it's like, okay, don't worry, at least about this part. But on top of that, we are going to help you in every possible way we can. We are going to guide you. And it's been going on. It's still in process. It's been going on for like over a month and a half. And there has been so much work with legal side of things, with law enforcement. But it's good knowing for the clients and for us that we have Cork with us, and they have really appreciated that, and that has helped with our trust, with our relationship with the client. So it's been a huge help to have you guys.
Yeah, from $600 to 600,000.
Yeah,
What a wild world we're living
yeah,
in, right?
yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage spike in incidences that you're seeing, but when we look across, nearly 50,000 SMB customers that we're protecting today, right, the volume just continues to increase. So it's pretty wild that the sophistication is also ramping while the volume is ramping. So now we've got smarter technology with higher intelligence threat actors coming after greater volume of clients. And so the job of the managed service provider to manage shadow AI and the cybersecurity environment is becoming more complicated. And at least you guys are getting paid double along the way, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah. It's
Of course.
And
I have
I'd
a
like to.
question for you both before we switch to the next slide. So I hear this in the community a lot where MSPs are trying to figure out something that's going to make them a differentiator. right? Like what can make me different? And honestly, I'm always like, well, it's not by product, right? Like it's because anybody can go out and buy products. And so do you feel that Cork has been able to help with some of that piece of it, with being a differentiator in the space?
I would say so. I mean, we deal with a lot of competition in our market, and I don't see this as a thing that a lot of MSPs are doing for their clients. Maybe they'll sell it as an add-on, but definitely not just including it because they're confident what they're doing. Definitely not. And I think that makes it a differentiator. It gives a certain level of trust to us that they might not have with another provider because we're going to put our money where our mouth is.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that those words aren't very typical in the MSP or MSSP space, right? Like it's just not a very common thing as opposed to like, yeah, I have a backup, I have an EDR, I have XYZ
Yeah,
product that
yeah.
I always say like I can go to any distributor today and buy all those products, literally match you and then charge $10 less, right? And obviously like that's what we're trying to avoid from the trunk slammers and that type of stuff in the community. So what about you, Sonny?
Yeah, I think same to a certain extent, but on top of that, it really helps. I think what we're figuring it out is it starts a business risk conversation. It's not just about the tools. It's not just about, as you said, EDR, antivirus, and backups, but it's about how we can become strategic partners, how we can help you. What are your business risks that are there? And same with any insurance conversation or any conversation regarding when it comes to incidents, it started the conversation. And from there on, we can take not necessarily advantage, but because otherwise that conversation was not happening, we can take that opportunity and really understand and help them understand where the risks are. And how we can help them to mitigate those risks or transfer those risks. So I think, and then they see more us more as a valuable partner, not just necessarily somebody who takes care of IT. So that has
A
been a big,
technology partner? Yeah.
exactly, not just as, like, okay, you fix my computer, but like, okay, no, you help me to keep secure so that I can run my business.
Yeah, we had a
Uh,
partner out of Southern California. His
yeah,
actual quote was, Cork's been able to take me out of the data room and put me into the boardroom. Right.
exactly,
So
exactly.
we thought that was pretty cool. And we're hearing more and more of that because it's
Yeah.
no longer just like, hey, add on SaaS backup for another $3. It's let's do this whole thing to impact your overall spend to actually have more security for your company, right? And so that's cool to hear. But I'm gonna pass it over to Bill because I know he wanted to cover a few things from a call to action side of the house.
Yeah, so so talking about this is obviously important and figuring out how we are going to make it work within the like our packaging and pricing and our offering. So one thing I wanted to introduce here was a program that we started to help MSPs, to help all of you do this, to help like execute on this in your business. So what happens here is you work with me to kind of make a plan, figure out, where our starting point is. The idea would be figure out a way to get this across your entire book of business, right? Like have all of your customers have financial protection so that you're adding that financial piece to your security program. We help you with messaging, help you understand how to talk to clients about this, because there are some things that, maybe, hey, you should say it this way and not this way. And we have a whole guidebook for you that you could use as a reference piece, and then just driving those results. So the idea ultimately is we want to help you do this, we want to help you roll this out, and we're available to do that. So if you do want to schedule a meeting with me on this, there is a QR code you can scan, and it brings you to um, a scheduling page where we can get something started. And I'll kick this right back over to you, Dan, to bring us home.
Get off of mute. There we go. Yeah, and I promise that QR code does not take you to a Russian site.
No, it is my scheduling page.
We were at our last event and there was a QR code on the bottom of a banner, and um, I saw somebody go up with the phone and his friend go, "No, don't do it. It's going to take you to the dark side."
There's a question that came in, Dan.
Oh, sorry, I can't see it. Do you want to read it to me?
I'm interested to hear how others are leveraging Cork, including existing policy analysis in pre-client conversations.
Sure. Sean, Sunny.
Yeah, I would say just bringing that conversation up is more than what they're getting in their current relationship. Just saying, hey, we can run your insurance. We can make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck. Because we include Cork in our base policy, you're gonna have some coverage on your deductible. So it's been good in the pre-sales conversation just because it shows that we have an active interest in their financial aspect and not just a one-way street of you pay us money per month.
Sunny, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think almost the same along the same lines is not necessarily just looking at it from like as I mentioned from a tech perspective, but it elevates the conversation from to a value conversation and a risk conversation, which has been super helpful. So and executives understand that stuff. They don't want us to talk about the tools. They don't want us to talk about like, oh, how many patches we fix and what we are doing technical perspective to other clients. They want to understand is how we are increasing the value, decreasing the risk, and that's what I think Cork comes into play, and start the conversation from there, and then depends on the client, answer their questions, and of course it changes based on the industry, based on the sector, based on the client, but it's a really good conversation starter.
Kenneth, I'll,
Yeah,
I'll add a little piece to I think to what you're asking as well. So if it's not an existing customer under your managed service umbrella, then and they have an existing policy, then you can run it through the policy analyzer. And then what you would want to look at, because what I usually educate partners to really take a look at is the actual deductibles and the premiums to see how you can kind of tweak those, right? Because that's where if they're not from like, so we saw one example where they had a $10,000 deductible where yes, on our minimum coverage, we could actually cover their $10,000 deductible. They would still have to pay their $11,000 premium that they had, but our next coverage is actually 50K for 25 cents more. So if you think about that, and what it does is more than doubles the deductible coverage. So that jumps up to 25,000. So now if I jump up their $50,000 coverage and it more than doubles their deductible, that's where you'll see a savings on their premium. So that $11,000 will then drop, right? And so like that's where you can start to tell people, hey, I have ways to actually for my managed service clients to actually save them money overall of what they spend collectively with cyber insurance and with managed services. My parlor trick is they actually spend more money with me as a managed service provider, but overall as a company, they spend less money. But the cool part of the trick is you don't sacrifice any coverage. You actually gain coverage in the worst case, or like maintain the same coverage, if not gain more coverage in the best case scenario. And so that's where it makes it really easy from a net new customer perspective to differentiate yourself. Because as Sean said, most people aren't talking of it that way to leverage a financial outcome to benefit them and their customers in a better way than what they were going to achieve for stuff they're already going to purchase.
yeah, it kind of changes it from a vendor relationship to a partner relationship right off the bat. We're not coming in as somebody asking for money. We're coming in as a partner in your, IT maturity journey, and it helps the business grow at the end of the day.
And to add to that, like you're positioning yourself as a more strategic advisor
Yep.
to than hey, I'm just here for the technology. It's about your business.
Yep. And that's a big thing right now, especially with AI and how to implement that and bring it into their environments. It's really putting on the business analytics hat and taking off the technical engineering hat.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think we've already mentioned some of it, but of course it helps to save the money, but then also it helps the clients to understand the risk in their current insurance policy that they're considering, and simplify it, because like nobody is gonna spend 8 hours reviewing 100 pages document, and everybody's and it's and what we are seeing, of course, you guys are seeing the same thing. They're like, okay, let's just ask ChatGPT or LLMs. What does it include? Which is not a good idea. It's way better to have a valuable or a trusted source like Cork to be like, okay, it's going to outline all the risks. It's going to help you simplify it, and from 70 pages to 3 pages, which is actually readable. And then it becomes more of a like time to make the decision rather than just thinking, it's a complicated process. And a lot of people just see that as a hindrance. It's like, okay, I don't have time for this. So from that point to simplifying the process of getting insurance, because at the end of the day, they also understand the risks, especially with all these incidents with AI and all of those things. But it's just a matter of helping them to get to over the line, which, it's a matter of simplifying it and helping them to save money in the long term.
Yeah, well said, guys. And by the way, since y'all are joining us for this call, kind of top secret, we have an ungated version of the cyber insurance analyzer that I included in the chat here. So you all are welcome to use that for us. I see another question has come in. How do you address legal concern of selling insurance where we are not licensed to? So nobody except for an insurance broker is legally allowed to sell cyber insurance, meaning MSPs, MSSPs, Cork Cyber, none of us sell cyber insurance. And we do not do that. The way that it works is we are providing information about the technology, the tech stack, whether things are on, off, secured in a partner and client's environment. And those are things that are part of a cyber insurance questionnaire. And then when a client requests cyber insurance or a quote, those things are essentially, we essentially act as the highway, the conduit, the pipe for the quote to be sent out. So there's a couple, I think it's 3 clicks within our portal, and the request for quote will get sent out to the actual broker. Andrew referred to data stream earlier in the call. There are others that it can be sent out to, but essentially we're hanging 45 plus carriers off the back end of Cork, and they are hungry for a request for Cork or request for quote, because they know that we are doing constant compliance monitoring and we are trying to make the world a safer place. So they are eager to fulfill that quote and get a discounted cyber insurance quote back for your clients. So then that is sent back to your client with our partners witnessing, managing that process, but not actually doing the cyber insurance binding process. Therefore, we're not brokering. Hopefully that helps. Happy to explain more. Any other questions that I think I've got most of them. I think we've done it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. In closing, let's see if we've missed anything here. I guess if we've got 3 takeaways when I look at my notes. Number one, protection is not an add-on. It's a revenue stream wearing a security badge. Number two, the MSP who can provide coverage wins the relationship. I think Sean and Sunny just showed up. Or just showed that you can actually live that. You guys really appreciate you taking the time and telling the stories about how you're winning, owning, loving the client relationship, and being able to bring so much value and differentiation there. And lastly, to those that are joining us on the call today, you don't have to figure out how to roll this alone. That's literally what the sidecar program is for, what Bill and our team have built. And it's very simple. And in less than 20 minutes, we're able to do this in an agentless API fashion and then create these assets for you and be able to help educate. So, and I think at some point Sunny, you said that we try to respond in less than 5 minutes. I think Marcus is currently winning at about 30 seconds as far as our response time goes. So we live for speed and completion around here to try to show up for our friends and family for sure. So, Sonny and Sean, thank you so much for joining us today. Bill and Andrew, appreciate everything. And for those of you that joined us today, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Thursday and a great rest of your summer. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.